In 2003, two engineers built a physics toy so obscure they couldn't even agree on a name, ROBLOX, GoBlox, DynaBlocks, before finally landing on ROBLOX. Today, that forgotten experiment draws more daily users than most countries have citizens. But between those 2 points lies a 73-hour collapse that erased the platform from the internet, hacker legends that still terrify millions of players, and a copyright war sparked by a single 2-second sound. From humble beginnings to epic myths and iconic games, this is ROBLOX Uncovered, and it all starts with a vision that nobody took seriously. David Baszucki spent the late 1980s and the 1990s building educational software designed to help students visualize mechanical engineering. Along with his vice president of engineering, Eric Castle, Baszucki created Interactive Physics, an educational program that allowed kids to simulate clean, predictable physics experiments on a screen. After selling that company for $20 million, Baszucki and Castle reunited in a single-room office in Menlo Park with a much larger ambition. They wanted to take those rigid, localized physics formulas and rebuild them for a live, multi-user environment. The transition from classroom utility to a shared digital playground required a complete architectural overhaul. Castle worked to transform a single-user engine into a scalable server-client system, implementing a custom Lua-derived scripting language that allowed individual computers to sync complex physical interactions across the web in real time. During this rapid development phase, the project cycled through several conceptual identities to find the right fit. The developers registered dynablocks.com in December 2003, seeking a term that captured the dynamic, physical nature of their building tools. But finding the name too difficult for younger children to remember, they pivoted once more, officially registering the ROBLOX trademark on March 29, 2004. This new identity consolidated their long-term focus. Instead of building games themselves, Baszucki and Castle spent their energy designing the tools so that others could build them. The core architecture was engineered to support what Baszucki termed human CO experience, a social environment where users didn't just play a pre-packaged game, but gathered with friends inside worlds they built brick by brick. By the time the team shut down the original DynaBlocks prototype on January 29, 2004, the foundation of this shared creative space was fully set. Following the shutdown of the initial prototype, the developers launched a closed alpha phase in 2004. By February 2005, this transitioned into a public beta, turning early testers into active contributors who could publish their own custom places. Managing this influx of early creators required a massive shift in infrastructure. Rather than relying on rigid local hosting, the team migrated the platform's backend to Amazon EC2 style cloud servers in mid-2005. This allowed the system to sync real-time physics and store user-created worlds persistently as the player base scaled. On September 1, 2006, the platform officially ended its beta and opened to the public. To turn this growing network of shared spaces into a functioning ecosystem, the founders introduced a virtual currency called tickets, or ticks, in August 2007. Players earned ticks simply by logging in or attracting visitors to their places, which they could then spend on avatar items and custom models in a basic HTML-based catalog. This simple system established the platform's first creator-driven economy, proving that building virtual spaces could yield rewards. Yet maintaining this live environment pushed the startup's finances to the limit. In late 2007, venture firm First Round Capital declined to invest, leaving the small team to self-fund their expanding server costs during an intense period of growth. The founders persisted until 2009, when they secured a $2.2 million funding round. This cash injection stabilized their cloud infrastructure, transforming ROBLOX from a fragile experimental tool into a permanent, self-sustaining digital world. With stable funding secured, the platform entered an era of rapid expansion. Yet this influx of players exposed a fundamental structural challenge. David Baszucki's vision of an open, user-built world meant that anyone could write code, upload assets, and host servers. This design granted creators absolute freedom while placing an unprecedented burden on the platform's architecture. As millions of new accounts registered, safety concerns, financial risks, and moderation challenges grew alongside the player base. Managing this massive digital environment was no longer a simple task of keeping servers online. every tool designed to enable kids to build could also be used by bad actors to bypass safety filters or exploit the virtual economy. The small engineering team found themselves in a permanent balancing act, trying to police millions of daily interactions without destroying the creative freedom that made the site popular. The tension between freedom and control was not a temporary glitch. It was a permanent feature of a system that was growing far faster than its creators could manually supervise. The platform was transforming from a sandbox into a complex digital nation, and the structural cracks were beginning to show. On October 28, 2021, at approximately midnight UTC, monitoring systems flagged a sudden drop in player counts. This was not a temporary glitch. For 73 hours until October 31st, ROBLOX vanished from the internet, locking out 50 million daily active users. The root cause lay deep within the platform's back-end infrastructure. ROBLOX coordinates its hundreds of internal microservices through HashiCorp Console, a service discovery and configuration system. A malformed console configuration change triggered a cascade of health check failures. Denied the ability to locate one another, core systems fell into a split brain state, crippling request routing, database timeouts, and user authentication. As secondary data store timeouts compounded the failure, internal engineering teams worked continuous, rotating shifts, bringing in external engineers from HashiCorp to help diagnose and rebuild the broken routing system. When the system finally recovered, the platform's vulnerabilities lay exposed to the public. In January 2022, ROBLOX published a formal postmortem outlining the exact return to service steps and preventative measures. But the financial and reputational toll was already severe. The 73-hour outage cost the company an estimated $15 million in lost revenue and triggered a $1.5 billion plunge in market capitalization on November 1st. For creators relying on the developer exchange program to pay bills, the sudden freeze on transactions served as a stark warning about their absolute economic dependence on a single machine. For years, a rumor circulated across school playgrounds and online forums, warning that the platform would face a total hacker takeover on March 18th. The panic centered around a single profile, John Doe. Carrying user ID number 2, this character sat at the very beginning of the database. He wore a default yellow skin, a black motorcycle jacket, and a silent, unblinking smile. Jane Doe, holding user ID number 3, shared the exact same vacant, inactive presence. Rumors claimed these accounts were occupied by active malicious entities, dormant hackers waiting for the designated date to seize control of the system. Younger players genuinely feared logging in, convinced their personal accounts would be hijacked or deleted. The legend grew rapidly, amplified by online videos that presented fabricated gameplay footage as absolute proof of an impending digital apocalypse. The reality behind the myth was far more ordinary. John Doe and Jane Doe were never hackers, nor were they possessed by malicious actors. David Basuki and Eric Castle created both profiles on March 6, 2005, during the early development phase. Because the platform was virtually empty at the time, the founders needed placeholder accounts to test multiplayer connections, chat filters, and internal moderation systems before opening the database to the public. Over a decade later, creators rediscovered these forgotten test accounts. By weaving fictional horror stories around the single-digit user IDS, they turned harmless internal tools into an active threat. The widespread panic was driven entirely by community repetition, thriving in the space between ordinary technical placeholders and the active imagination of a young player base. On September 26, 2008, ROBLOX introduced guest accounts, allowing anyone to explore the platform without registering a profile. These default avatars, wearing black caps and simplified shirts, became the silent backdrop of early servers, representing a chaotic, anonymous freedom. But on October 2nd, 2017, the company disabled guest logins. The official rationale was straightforward. Forcing players to register would improve safety, reduce system exploitation, and build a larger, traceable user base. This policy shift eliminated anonymity, replacing a wild frontier with a strict registry. In hindsight, the loss of these silent players made the early platform feel far more magical. It also fueled rumours of invisible admin visits, where staff supposedly monitored servers undetected. By tightening identity controls, Roblox successfully reduced platform chaos, but it unwittingly transformed its own administrative actions into legendary folklore, leaving a community nostalgic for an era of quiet, unregistered wanderers. The darker corners of the Roblox ecosystem contain a different kind of mystery, where the dividing line between real code and fabricated folklore completely blurs. Online horror stories like Weird Corruption and Corrupted Memories present tales of cursed assets, Red Cross avatars, and haunted obstacle courses. The community itself serves as the author of these legends. In a digital space where millions of older creations are deleted or left unarchived, the absence of proof becomes a powerful breeding ground for rumours. If a classic game disappears from search results, players often assume a malicious entity or a cursed script caused its removal, rather than simple server maintenance or a broken engine update. Cursed audio files and corrupted models spread across forums through continuous remixing, with creators copying and altering assets until their true origins are entirely lost. These eerie tales represent undocumented fiction. Community debunkers regularly trace the spooky occurrences back to standard, unmodified sound effects or intentional scare tactics programmed by early developers. Yet, in a world built on incomplete digital records, the gaps in the archives allow folklore to become a permanent part of the platform's identity. On May 13, 2005, a basic asset catalogued as Model Y D828 was uploaded to the platform's public toolbox under the anonymous username Toolbox. This was Spasmatron 2, a chaotic, physics-based shooter, where two teams of block avatars fired rapid projectiles across a flat, bordered arena. By January 2006, the platform saw its first genuine multiplayer hit with Rocket Arena. This competitive combat game introduced explosive rocket projectiles, live scoreboards, and hazardous lava pits, ultimately drawing nearly 2 million visits before its retirement. These early experiments, alongside open-world sandboxes like John's Puzzle Game from January 2004, established a new cooperative design philosophy. Users were no longer just testing a software engine. They were actively building a shared, interactive culture, one virtual brick at a time. Evaluating Roblox's vast library requires looking past fleeting trends to identify the few titles that drove its structural and cultural growth. Rather than cataloguing every popular experience, a small, highly curated group of games serves as historical markers for changing mechanics, community behaviour, and creator opportunity. Each of these benchmark titles earned its place through three distinct measures: exceptional longevity, technical innovation, and lasting social impact. This strict criteria reserves the later era slots exclusively for verified social mega hits that permanently transformed user interaction on a global scale. By tracing this specific line of development, the transition from a rigid, block-building physics sandbox to a complex, multi-billion-dollar creator economy becomes clear. These selected worlds provide the direct link between early coding experiments and professional game development. To manage a virtual world where roughly 40% of the active players are under 13, the platform relies on automated machine learning filters running alongside human review teams. With over 6 billion messages processed daily, even minor error rates impact millions of young accounts. This scale frequently turns private moderation errors into highly visible public issues. Creators have documented sudden bans for uploading harmless assets, while normal chat communication is routinely blocked. In early 2026, a sudden surge in automated safety flags triggered a wave of unexpected account terminations, leaving players with generic notifications. When automated systems make systemic mistakes on a platform built for children, those errors quickly escalate from minor technical bugs into a widespread crisis of parental and community trust. Developers utilizing the Developer Exchange program face a steep financial divide, with the platform's high cut and conversion fees leaving creators with only a fraction of their game's earnings. This economic strain fuels intense frustration across the developer forums, where many call the current payout structure unsustainable. Because the platform operates as an open, decentralized economy, these weak financial incentives are constantly pressured by bad actors. Scams, copycat games, and copyright exploits flourish in a system where automated safety tools fail to protect original assets. Creators routinely deal with false copyright bans and arbitrary asset takedowns, while actual malicious exploits slip through the gaps. The resulting fallout shows the high cost of maintaining a multi-billion-dollar economy on a foundation of weak incentives and fragile security. The platform's most famous audio file did not actually belong to Roblox. The short, distinct oof sound, played during millions of avatar deaths, originated from a 2000 personal computer video game called Messiah. Composed by veteran musician Tommy Tallarico, the legacy clip was added to the early Roblox engine without a formal licensing agreement. In July 2022, a copyright dispute forced Roblox to remove the sound entirely, replacing it with an internally created synthetic thud across all active games. Although the original audio returned as a paid marketplace asset in July 2025, the sudden 3-year absence exposed a real vulnerability. As the platform matured into a multi-billion-dollar corporation, even a basic 2-second audio file remained bound by the strict laws of intellectual property. Today, Roblox is no longer just a platform, it is a self-sustaining digital civilization. As virtual spaces increasingly define how we socialize and create, the boundaries of reality are quietly dissolving. We are not just playing games anymore, we are pioneering the societies of tomorrow, chaos and all. What kind of world will we choose to construct? Share your thoughts below and subscribe for more.